This is my most brutally honest advice about the job search. After hiring over 1,000 people and helping millions to get hired, I can tell you most job seekers are doing it wrong. They think the job search is about filling out applications and hoping someone sees their worth. It's not. In this video, I will walk through the brutal truths of the job search and help shake you out of that bad advice stupor that so many of us have been put under. And if you're sensitive, if you're angry about the job search, if you feel like it's all unfair, maybe turn this off right now and go watch another video of mine where I coddle you a little bit more, because this is for the hardcore folks who want this video to pour over them like an ice bucket. And stay to the end for a truth about why companies reject you and how it doesn't actually mean you won't get an offer. Okay, so first of all, even if you're pretty good at job searching, you're going to feel invisible. You're going to feel rejected. You'll check your emails 10 times a day. You'll go back and forth on a word choice on your resume, and you'll see other people announcing their new jobs on LinkedIn and feel like you're falling behind. That is what the job search feels like. If you feel that way, you are so normal. So the job search already feels terrible, and I'm about to make you feel worse. Because in the job search, where it's comfortable, it's crowded. You are going to have to get out of your comfort zone and do things besides submitting job applications and simply prepping for the top interview questions and just answering the interviewer's questions if you want to win more job offers. You need to go the extra mile, but the good news is there's never traffic. Before we dive into what you need to do to blow these companies away, we have to address the baboon in the room, which is that there's a decent chance you don't know what you want. What job title are you targeting and in which industry? If you can't give me a simple, 4-word answer to that question, you are lost. Such as my client Tara, who was struggling to land her next job. But once she went through the exercise of doing the one-page career vision, she realized that she was straddling all these different kinds of designer roles and ultimately put all of her focus on visual design. And she started getting upwards of 15 recruiter outreaches a week, reaching out to her about jobs she had never even applied to. And she ended up landing a fantastic opportunity. And it goes to show that being focused doesn't limit your opportunities, it attracts them. Once you know what you want, you start farming. This is the key to a shorter, faster job search. Stop focusing on only short-term action. Here is how most job seekers utilize their time, with the greatest focus on short-term actions that either work or bust, which is usually submitting online applications. Instead, with job shopping, you also focus a bit more on medium and long-term actions too. Because your job search will likely take months, so you must start planting seeds and they will grow. Midterm actions include building relationships and optimizing your LinkedIn profile to attract inbound opportunities, getting in the right clubs and organizations to meet people or be discovered for your expertise. Longer term actions could include creating a personal brand where you're putting content into the world, which is networking at scale. My client lands a couple of interviews a month simply from a niche podcast episode he was on that continues to quietly farm opportunities for him in the background. Let's be realistic about how long your job search is going to take. A typical job search takes 3 to 6 months, according to FlexJobs. And this depends on a lot of other factors as well. If you're changing industries, add a few months. If you're changing professions, add a few months. If you are focused on mostly remote roles, add a few months. If you're focused on executive roles, add a few months. I mean, you get the picture. So let me know in the comments, what are these additional things that maybe are making your job search a little bit longer or more challenging? And then I can make some content to address that. And with farming, your results compound. So if I had a gumdrop every time a client regretted not starting job shopping strategies earlier to set them up for success, start that farming, then I could build an epic candy castle.
Candy mountain!
Another thing I have to be honest with you about is your resume isn't as good as you think it is. So many of us think of the resume as this accurate document of our professional history, but really it should be more of a sales page of what makes you highly capable of doing the specific job you are targeting. I'm not all about the debate of whether or not your resume should be 1 or 2 pages, but what I do find is that when people implement the glory formula for their resumes is that the resume tends to shrink because they are only sharing the most valuable information. And it's also important for a resume to be extremely skimmable, okay? So get rid of paragraphs from your resume, opt for really easily bullets, and slim them down to the key information. I have a whole class you can take if your resume could use some translating into a sales page. I'll link the Resume Revamp Masterclass below. And forget all of this nonsense in the job search about beating the ATS, beating the bots that are scanning your resume. What's actually happening is humans are looking for keywords. And when I say keywords, I mean hard skills, not soft skills. They're not looking for you to describe yourself as collaborative and cross-functional and seasoned. No one is looking for that. Instead, they are looking for hard skills. For example, copywriting, cloud security, lockpicking. If you're making your resume for recruiters, it'll do well. If you're not doing well, it's because you're not properly qualified, your resume isn't as good as you think it is, your timing may be off, or your resume simply isn't being seen. I go into the most optimized keyword strategy in the Glory Formula in my book, Reverse the Search, if you need help on this. Also, a side note, be super careful about what advice you're taking online, and even my advice. There are so many coaches out there who have had a strong job search or two and then decided to give job search advice. And the issue is that they have not hired at scale. So their advice only applies to a very small number of people who have a situation that's quite similar to their own. So always be careful and notice, does this person actually have an HR and recruiting background or has hired thousands of people, or is their advice simply from their perspective of their own job searches? Also, I myself create advice for the masses, and not everything I say will apply to you, which is why I like coaching so much, because we can actually give you customized feedback, such as I recently had a viewer misinterpret what I said about resume. I said that your resume does not have to be 1 page, but if you challenge yourself to strive to make it 1 page, you'll realize that there's so many things you're keeping on your resume that don't actually need to be there and are probably distracting, actually. Could even be hurting you. That's a bit of a nuanced take that I could talk about for 6 more hours on just that point. And a viewer misinterpreted that and said, so Madeline, you told me to make my resume shorter, and so I took all the dates off of it. No, I would never tell someone to remove the dates from their resume. So please be careful with interpreting advice online. I see people writing online, especially complaining on LinkedIn on how they're not getting any interviews. And I will take a look at their LinkedIn profile and I can immediately see 10 different things that are turning employers off. And so I want you to also cut out those negative voices that you hear online. Literally block them, because they make it seem like the job search is impossible, but they are not reputable sources. They are not doing the right strategies. One thing I want to be clear about is that if you're changing careers, yes, your job search will be harder, but a large portion of my clients are career changers or pivoters, and they can still land jobs in record time and get really great job offers, such as Nicole, who was laid off with a hyper niche skill set.
Even worse, my job title was so niche. Any of the things that I did in the startup behind the scenes, I didn't have on paper because I had a different title. I was really stuck in like not looking good on paper, but being really great in reality. So once I got into a room with somebody, they realized how killer of a deal it is to get me. I have so much background in so many things, but getting into the room, getting somebody to respond to the resume, that was like practically never.
It was really a matter of getting the right strategy in place. And after 6 months of job searching alone without a coach, it took less than 1 month of job shopping with our coaching team to land an office manager role at a highly prestigious university. It was all in the way she repositioned herself. Career changers, you can do this too. Don't listen to the negativity. You've got this. Because when I ran thousands of hiring processes for competitive roles, the winner wasn't always the most qualified candidate. It was someone who could paint a good future. That is the advantage you can create if you are not as qualified as the next candidate, because it's not about what you've done in the past. It's what you can promise for the future. So that comes from the way you show up at interviews. Even the way you talk and email with them is evidence of what it would feel like to work with you. Then the research and thoughtful analysis you bring into the interview is also evidence of what you can bring into the future. Your work samples, anything you put together during the interview process, the collaborative conversations you have, these things can put you miles ahead of other candidates with more experience and more degrees than you, because the company starts to see you more as a coworker versus an outsider. And I often see job seekers sabotage themselves with their mindset, where they are so burned and exhausted from their job search and potentially even their toxic work past that they let this dark cloud hang over their head each interview, and the interviewers, they can feel it. It makes you feel like you are a low value candidate instead of a job shopper. Think about it like every job interview is a concert. First off, the interviewer bought tickets to the concert. The interviewer gave you their most valuable asset, their time, and there's nothing they want more than for it to be a great concert. They really don't want to have to keep interviewing other candidates. They want you to be the perfect person. Their dream is that you're perfect, and they can immediately and confidently say that you're the person to give the offer to. Second of all, even if you've played this concert 1,000 times before, your audience is new and they want to hear your greatest hits. So play them with the same enthusiasm you did the very first concert you played, because we start to turn our interviews into us reciting answers or feeling exhausted by the whole process, but the interviewer won't know you're exhausted unless you act that way. And they won't know about the negative parts of your past unless you tell them. You are fully in control of their perception of you, and it is your moment to rewrite your story with you as the hero. Going off of this, when you get to the job interview, remember it is not about you. First, rarely does someone hire someone they don't like. So take questions like, how are you today? Seriously, as a moment to build rapport and bring energy into the interview. Next, know that most people, even if they have years of experience, are terrible interviewers, and they aren't asking the right questions to really get to the root of what they actually want to know. So focus on the intention of the question more than what they're actually asking. And this includes sometimes you may not give them exactly the answer they're asking for because that answer doesn't exist, such as, let's say you're asked a time that you dealt with an unethical boss, and that's never happened to you. But that doesn't mean you can't give them another answer, an alternate option to share how you deal with situations where you have to push back if you disagree. Such as an example of when you debated your coworker on something, because that is what they actually want to know, is how you'd react in these types of situations. And the intention behind the interview question is something that I talk about deeply on my channel for all different questions. So be sure to subscribe to learn all of those insights. Additionally, make sure that you are researching and focused in the interview on the company and less so on telling your story. It's not about telling them all the things you love about yourself and your strengths. It's about matching your skill set to the problems they are trying to solve. I created a whole free masterclass called Unshakable Interviews that you can watch that will help you have a breakthrough depending on which of the 6 offer blockers you are facing in each job interview. And so I will link that below. And one thing many people don't know about the job search is I've been dubbed the comeback coach because so many of my clients end up landing offers at companies that had previously rejected them. And so many people don't realize that there are a lot of ways to not go through the normal interview process. And frankly, many of my clients fully skip the conventional processes. And it's not in a way where they're like beating the system. Instead, the company truly prefers it that way. It's easier for the company. So never burn a bridge with a company after you've been rejected. Keep in mind that if you interviewed with a company, they see something in you. They see value and they gave you their most valuable resource, their time. And so keep cultivating that relationship and just because that role didn't work out in that moment doesn't mean that another role at another time wouldn't also be the right fit. So that's the truth sauce I'm pouring for today. Now that I'm done, it doesn't seem that harsh, right? You're fine. You're fine, right? So be sure to like this video and subscribe to this channel. You got this. Wi-Fi high five.